What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the JP Podcast. Today we have Mark Talukdar from India to New York to Austin, from software engineering to 41% body fat to down to 6% body fat, competing in shows. You got a show coming up in December, and shooting to be a national champion. From software engineering guys to business coaching, runs a podcast called Peak Performance, and repopulating the Talukdar last name. So great to have you on the show, brother.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So tell us, how was it growing up in India? Because you hear stories, billions of people, poverty. How was that? How was your journey to New York and becoming a software engineer?
Well, I came to the U.S. when I was 18, so I finished my high schooling in India. You don't really know, you only know something's good or bad when there is something else that you can compare it with.
Sure.
Right? And growing up, it was what it was. We didn't really know what we were lacking or what we were not lacking. I was a happy kid. I was a motivated kid. I remember reading history books, American history in high school. And what always attracted me was the Boston Tea Party scene. And I could visualize the ship and the tea around. And I think it was then that I had somehow decided I'm going to go to America someday. And as I grew up, older and older through my teen years, you start learning more about America, and it is the greatest country in the world, right? It is. So I wanted to come, and I applied to college, got into a school in Pennsylvania, came over.
What do you say to people that say America is the worst country in the world from an immigrant perspective?
They should go and live in other countries.
Yes, that'll.
When we have something by default, we don't value it. But when we see the comparison, like I said, then you realize how good we have it.
Of course.
Yeah.
My dad's from Cuba, so when one day you wake up and you don't own your businesses anymore, and the government tells you what you can eat.
Yep.
You appreciate being able to go to a grocery store.
Yep.
So you said I was always motivated as a kid. What caused the motivation? What inspired the motivation?
So I was born out of an interracial marriage. My dad is a Brahmin Bengali. My mom is a Punjabi. Them getting together in the 80s and getting married was like, an African-American person marrying a Caucasian person in the 20s in America, right? So when they got married, they got kicked out from both sides, right? So my mom, as I was born the year after, and my mom always said, you're special, because none of my grandparents wanted to meet me.
Wow.
Like, I had no extended family. And I would wonder, how come everybody else is going to school that I went to? My grandparents, where are my grandparents? So it was kind of offset that. My mom would always say, you're special and you're different, you're this. I didn't realize why she was saying that, but that conditioned me to start believing that I was special and different. And when you start believing something about yourself, you start doing things that are special and different. And for some reason, I started getting success. So it was like a circular process. The more I did, the more motivated I got.
That makes sense. Have you heard the story of Thomas Edison, his mom?
No.
So the school writes a letter, and they give it to him, and they say, hey, give this to your mother. So she opens up the letter, and she reads it, and she says, and he says, what does it say, Mom? And she says, well, it says that you're too intelligent, that they don't have teachers there to teach you. So we're going to have to find a different way of educating you because you're too smart. Years later, his mom passes away. He's going through some of her content. And he finds the letter and he opens it up and it says, your son is not intelligent enough to be here. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And there's this concept. Somebody taught it to me years ago. It's called the Pygmalion Principle. And it says they did a study with teachers, and they told these teachers, these children are extremely intelligent in your class. And they looked at their test scores before, they look at their test scores at the end of the season, and they were advanced, but they were just average students to begin with. And so the story goes that however you see somebody to be, they will become that, if somebody else can give them an identity or a belief. So that's powerful. So your mom inspired you and believed in you, that got you to go out there and say, let me go do more. And then that cycle perpetuated.
Absolutely.
So you became a software engineer, right? That was here in New York?
I was going to school in Pennsylvania at the time.
Okay. So you were in Pennsylvania, software engineer. And why'd you become a software engineer? What drove you to do that?
When you grow up in India, you only have two career choices. Either you're a doctor or you're an engineer.
Okay.
So I picked engineering.
Okay. And so how'd you like working in that industry?
I loved it. I'm a problem solver by nature. Even coming over to America when I was 18, it was just problem solving every single day, because literally you're pressing a reset button on your life. You don't know anything. right? So I love the problem-solving aspect of engineering. I was a computer engineer. I loved building things. I enjoyed a good bit.
Most people that get a degree in engineering and software engineer, they're like, hey, I'm staying in this industry. Why did you transition out of the industry?
Because I could have done that even in India. I could have been a software engineer in India. So the price that I paid, right, living away from my family, the struggles that I had, there was a time I was homeless. I didn't do all of that just to become a guy behind a computer. Also, America stands for entrepreneurship. This country was built on the backbones of people who were brave and who started something new. And I wanted to be able to contribute to some in any way, right? So I wanted to start my business. Well, the good thing about being an engineer is that you have problem-solving skills, but you don't really develop a lot of communication skills as a nerd. I'm proud to be a nerd, but you don't learn sales skills or marketing skills or communication skills. So I came to a crossroads in my life where I realized that, well, I'm going to start my business. I need to earn these skills. So I quit my 6-figure software job and I went to sales and marketing.
So you came here, you knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur before you came.
I think I had a feeling, but I don't think I had decided. I was only 18 at the time.
Okay. When did that desire show up in your life?
I think in my mid-20s, like early 20s. Once I graduated, did my bachelor's, did my master's, started working through the ranks, but there was fulfillment that was missing.
And why did you connect that fulfillment to like entrepreneurship? Like what was it? Was it you didn't like the environment, you didn't like the pay, you wanted to create something, something was unresolved? What was it that drove you to entrepreneurship?
I think it was lack of fulfillment.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's like, when you're single and you're looking for somebody to date, you don't really know who you want to date until years down the line you start to realize, okay, this is what I really want. Those feelings are always within you, but contextually they don't make sense logically. Only with age and experience and exposure do those lines start to connect with each other. And for me, it was that. I started taking all these little bits and pieces, started to learn myself more because when you come as an immigrant, you're in survival mode. You don't have the luxury to be like, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be this. You're just trying to survive. And when you're trying to survive, you go after jobs and make money and pay off debt and all those things. After you get to a certain point, now you're like, okay, what do I really want?
And what type of fulfillment were you looking for? Was it, do you understand?
Independence. For me, it was independence and wanting to create something that was mine. I told you earlier, my mom had always instilled in me that I'm different. And I've truly felt that I'm different. And I've truly felt that when I really pour myself into something, I can do anything I want. So why am I like a small frog in a small well when there's an ocean out there? So I wanted to create something of my own. I wanted to give back to society. I wanted to teach whatever I could and work with amazing people and learn from them.
So you're at this 6-figure job. You want something. You want this independence. You want this fulfillment. You realize I don't have the skill sets. That was something you were aware of?
Absolutely.
So I don't have the skill sets of communication, sales, whatnot. So you said, I'm going to quit this job, right, and go do sales.
Yeah.
What did you sell? What was your first sales job?
I sold anything from selling wine over the phone to selling education programs over the phone. And it was brutal. I don't know if many people know what it feels like to truly not belong in a room. And the previous version of me, I was a very shy kid. I was very shy and very introverted. And the very first day I walked in the sales room and there are all these sales guys, I had this moment. I was like, I don't belong here. I truly don't belong here, but I'm going to try my best. So I was there for 5 years, but it was not easy. It was brutal. I remember driving to work with a pencil in between my mouth because I read a book that says it'll make you feel happy because your face is like this. It hacks your brain into happiness because it's hard stuff. Anybody who's been in sales and marketing and selling stuff over the phone, it's not easy. But I persevered. 5 years later, the last 3 quarters, I was top 1% in the country. And that's when I realized that my transformation is done. Now we move to the next level.
So most people, they walk into a room. We do overviews here. We bring people out to come check out insurance, entrepreneurship, whatnot. And people are uncomfortable. You walk into a room, there's a few hundred people, a lot of introverts. I'm an introvert by nature. So I chose an industry that's completely opposite to my natural comfort zone. What do you think about it is, because you coach people as well, what do you think it is that makes somebody say, I'm going to stay in this room even though I'm uncomfortable, versus the person that says, this is too uncomfortable, I'm going to go back? What do you think that defining difference is?
I think accepting that everybody is afraid. I think people who take the step back and leave think that there is something wrong with them. And the one that chose to stay must be this like super brave kind. No, everybody who stepped in that room is afraid. And if we can acknowledge that everybody's feeling the same
Powerful.
thing, then we can choose to take the next step, which is go back or stay. The second thing is also, what's there to lose? I've always thought about things that way. I've used two principles to shape my life. What is there to lose? How hard can it be? Right? And neither of those answers can be found without trying.
Wow.
So no matter where I am at, I'm going to give it a shot. And a majority of the times, I come out winning. Because many people just don't even take a shot because they just leave. They self-disqualify themselves.
That's so true. So you're in the room, you identify, hey, I'm uncomfortable. And that's the natural state of anybody that goes through this process. Was that through personal development, through books? Was that through mentorship? Or was that you just staying in that discomfort?
Staying in the discomfort, I go into my shell, I become quiet, and I watch, and I learn, and I observe. I'm a very good student of people, and I would then watch what they're doing. Another very unconventional thing that I do is you pretend that this is a movie scene, and you pretend that you're the actor that's cast in this movie scene. This is not your life. This is just temporary. I don't have to worry about what would Mark the person do here. Let me worry about what Mark the character would do in this scene. Mark the character just entered this room, and he's very uncomfortable, and he's scared. What would Mark the character do in the movie? He would stay. He would talk to people. He would watch people. So it gamifies the process a little bit, because you have to take the stress and anxiety out. We have all been in rooms that are big rooms. When I moved to New York City and I started consulting for Fortune 100 companies, all of a sudden I'm in a room with people graduated from Harvard and Stanford and multiple MBAs, 30 years older than me, and they're looking at me as a consultant to tell them what to do. I'm like, oh Lord, do I know what I'm talking about? We've all had that moment. So there are these little tips that has helped me throughout my life.
So you make the decision. Thank you for that. You make the decision, I'm going to stay here. And I'm going to go from this quiet software engineer to top 1% in the country salesperson for that organization. What was that process of I'm afraid to talk to people, or I'm introvert, to top 1%? What was that transition like for you? Was it developing relationships with top salespeople there? Was it just studying what they said, mastering the words of the business? Was it reading sales books? What helped you go from beginning to where you finish at 1%?
Yeah, when I started, the active thought wasn't that I am a shy, nerdy kid, I want to become top 1%. The active thought was, I want to survive. And then when I started surviving, I want to get better. So I always take one step at a time. Because sometimes those goals, I want to be top 1% where you're nobody, is such ludicrous. Like, you can't map out a plan. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, well, I'm here. I don't belong here. I'm going to get fired any day. What do I do to survive? Well, I got to make sales. How many sales do I need to make to survive? Okay, once I get to that level, I figure it out. In terms of the technique, just watching people, learning from others. It's the whole idea behind how hard can it truly be. There are other people who are doing this. I'm not that different. Sure, they have some other skills that I don't have, but I can develop them. So listening to their calls, reading their notes, getting into the database, putting the time in. Like, just because work hours were from 9 to 6 doesn't mean I was there from 9 to 6. I was there from 6 a.m. to sometimes 8, 9 p.m. Because I wanted to learn absolutely every single bit. Talking to my managers, hey, can I listen to someone else's call? Can I connect with them and see what they're doing? And the more I did, the more I realized I can do this. So the more exposure you have to something, I think fear comes from ignorance. We believe certain things just to be so much harder than it is. But the more you get exposed to it, at least for me, I was like, I can do this. And then it was just practicing and rehearsing, getting your face kicked in sometimes, and then you get back up and you do it again. Rinse and repeat.
What's there to lose, and how hard can it be?
True.
Those are two defining questions you said you filter everything through.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's really good, because some people are watching this, they get into entrepreneurship, and they're like, millionaire, CEO, this, and it's like, dude, there's so many evolutions of who you're gonna have to become along the way.
Yeah.
So what is your next? And being able to control your mind to not overwhelm yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're at this company, you start mastering sales, you get good at it, you get to start to compete in the top 1%, and now you're saying, hey, I think I'm good. I can go do this for myself at this point.
Great.
So what was that next step when you left that company?
I walked into the last day of my work. I sat there. I realized I'm done. I went to my boss and I said, I'm done. He said, why are you done? Do you have another job? I said, no. I just figure I've always done that.
So you quit not having another job,
Every
not
single
having.
time.
Did you have a plan?
Nope.
Okay.
You figure the plan out. You
Okay.
figure it out. Because you can't put two legs in two different boats at the same time. Impossible. And I want to be devoted and committed. If I'm at a job and I'm showing up to the job, I need to be thinking about the job. I cannot be thinking 50% about, okay, I got to go get another job. It's like being in a relationship. You're not married to your wife right now and thinking about another girl. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
Correct.
Right? So for me, but that's the confidence that I had built in myself over the years. That when I have learned something, I can place bets on myself. Right? You are doing this thing in business. Now you're starting a podcast. Maybe you're doing something else. You're confident that you're going to be able to do it. Just because past successes can sometimes predict future behaviors and future successes. So for me, I didn't need to worry about where am I going to go, what am I going to do. I just needed to know this chapter in my life is over. This chapter in the book is done. We just signed it and we go to a fresh page. Now I had high-level ideas of what I wanted to do.
What did you want to do? What were
I wanted
you
to go to New
thinking
York
you
City.
wanted? Okay.
I wanted to go to New York City and I wanted to fight with the best.
Why New York and fight what?
Because it's the best. It's the biggest city. When you think about professionals, entrepreneurs, selling, consulting, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Sure.
Right? Movies is LA and business is New York. So I wanted to prove to myself, again, because my mom said those things, right? All my life, I'm trying to see, am I truly special? Do I really have what it takes to fight against the best and win, right? Because imposter syndrome exists within us at any given point, no matter how successful you are.
For somebody watching this that doesn't understand what imposter syndrome is, can you explain it?
Yeah, imposter syndrome is that you have achieved something, but you still think that you got lucky. Or maybe you don't truly give yourself credit for it. Or I was at the right place at the right time. These are thoughts that mess with you and that can stop future growth because you are crediting the universe or just luck instead of the fact that you put work into it. So I wanted to test myself and I wanted to go to the biggest city and see what I can do with it. It's all about pushing the limits and see how far can I go. Again, how hard can it really be? The story of when I got to New York, like I was interviewing for two companies. One was Walt Disney in Florida. One was NYU in New York City. And I got the job. Both of them offered me a job. I wanted New York. So I told my wife, I'm going to go to New York. And she's like, oh, okay, we're packing. I said, no. You stay here for 3 weeks. Let me go by myself because I still don't know if I can do this job. Right?
That's funny.
Right? Let me go try it for 3 weeks. Look at the imposter syndrome, right? I'm still like, I just went to like 7 rounds of interviews, like with MBAs, and I got the job. And I'm still thinking, am I good enough? So I said, let me go there. I'm going to stay at my uncle's house, right? 3 weeks. And then we will decide if you're moving. Well, work started Monday. On Friday, I called. I said, babe, we're moving. Like 5 days, I'm good. Because once you're there, you're like, yeah, this is simple. Like, I can do this. Like, no problem.
What was the job in New York? What was your first job there?
It was a consulting job at NYU Langone Health.
Okay.
NYU Langone is one of the biggest hospital networks in the country. So It was a consulting role.
So now you're in this consulting role. Is this when you start bodybuilding, or were you already doing this?
Oh, no. Consulting role is when I started self-medicated with food and alcohol.
Okay, so walk us through that journey.
Well, it's really high stress. And, at this point when I'm in New York, I truly have, for the first time in my life, I felt like I have actually achieved something. Despite all the successes that I had, I never truly felt like I achieved something because I always felt like I wasn't like playing against really big players, But when I went to New York and when I got that job and I was really doing amazing things at work, like projects were moving faster than the speed of light. Projects were stuck for like 10 years because I was a unique blend of technology knowledge and a personality and sales skills. To get anything moving in any company, it's people working against people. And at that high level, there's a lot of egos. So the tech people can do the tech work, but they can't do people management. And the people management people can do the sales and marketing stuff. Well, they can't do the tech work. Well, I was all in one package, right? So I was very happy. I was making a lot of money. And I took the foot off the pedal for a little bit, I started enjoying life a little bit, that was happening. And then the stress and the anxiety sometimes also kicks in. So you eat more than you need to, or you drink more than you need to, going to a lot of meetings, you're doing a lot of things. And for anybody who has gotten lost in their life, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens so slowly that you almost don't realize it's happening until there's a defining moment and you're like, how did I get here? So until then, I was just getting bigger and bigger. Until I was at a 41% body fat.
What was the defining moment for you?
So 2020 COVID happened, and we were in New York City the whole year, in Manhattan, stuck in our apartment. 2021 came around, and we had this moment, I and my wife, and I said, why are we here? Like, we have our own business. We can just go anywhere we want. So why don't just take a road trip? We'll just go to a different state, get an Airbnb, and live there for a couple of weeks, explore the state, then we'll go to a different state. And we'll just continue doing that, go through as many states as we can. New York opens back up, we come back. So we go from New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia. My wife says, I'm pregnant. So now I'm like, well, we don't have a home to go back to. We are on the road. What do you want to do? So we decided, well, we'll just go through the states and we'll see how far we go and we'll figure it out. Again, we'll just figure it out, right? So we're going through the states. We're coming through Texas. We've been through 18 states. It looks like we're on the run because every time we go to a doctor, the previous doctor's paperwork is like from 3 states ago.
That's funny.
We go through Texas and, my wife is like, we're in the 3rd trimester now. I don't think I want to do this anymore. So you want to stay in Texas for a little bit, in Austin? Sure. So we got a house, called the movers, and moved the stuff here. Our son was born a couple months later, and that was the defining moment because I held him in my hands. You read all these books and you watch all these movies about like, this defining moment. And sometimes you're like, is it really? It is, at least for me. He was born, I held him in my hands, and I had this surreal moment that all this money, all this success, I'm not going to be alive by the time he goes to high school. Because at a 40% body fat, I was already having sleep apnea. I wasn't breathing in the middle of the night. My cholesterol, everything was messed up, right? I knew what I needed to do to get out of there. I just didn't do it until that big why came into my life.
So you have that revelation of, I want to be present in this man's life.
Yeah.
And so you start, how'd that journey start? I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to start working out. Because you went from 41% body fat to 6% competing in shows. I saw your photos.
Correct.
That's a complete makeover to the extreme, by the way.
Yeah, well, as entrepreneurs, we are extreme people. We have a tendency to get obsessed with stuff, right? I think I was also angry at myself, that how did I let this happen? And that happens to us. Sometimes when we make big mistakes, we look at ourselves and we say, how did I make this happen? So losing 5 or 10 pounds or 15 pounds wasn't enough. I wanted to prove to myself that I still am the same guy. The older we get, sometimes we start to, doubt, are we really the same guy? Do we still have the same intensity? So I was like, I still want to prove myself. I am still the same guy.
How old are you at this point?
I'm 35 when my son is born. I'll be 38 in September.
Okay, so you're 35. You start going on this journey. You're questioning, can I still do it?
Yeah.
Please continue.
Can I still do this? Do I still have the intensity? So I needed a big goal. Losing 10 pounds, 20 pounds, for me, it was like, that's what children do. I want to do something hard. I want to get on a stage. But, when you're that fat and you tell anybody, I'm going to be in a bodybuilding stage in 2 years, nobody believes you. But that fuels me. I love that. This is a certain personality type. For me, I have to go for the kill shot. So it was a gradual process, going to the gym and just hanging out at the gym. Because I don't even know what any of these machines are, right? There's weird discomfort. But again, how hard can it be? I just have to now play the role of a guy who's looking to lose weight in a movie, right? So much simpler. Started doing my own thing a little bit. At some point, I realized, why am I DIYing this? There are other people who know this. They have spent their entire lives building bodies. Just hire somebody who knows what they're doing. So I hired a personal trainer, and he taught me about diet. He taught me about training, and the rest is history.
Was the diet part of it, because this is where I struggle, with the diet part of it, you didn't know what to eat? Was it really the issue, or was it the accountability of somebody holding you accountable to eating what you should have eaten?
Most people don't know what to eat.
Okay.
Especially in today's world of the internet. The internet has given everybody a voice, but it's also created a lot of noise and confusion. Every month there's a new diet, right? Paleo, keto, Mediterranean, no carb, high carb. What do you follow? And we can get into that. That's a whole different story. But knowing your macros, knowing how much protein you need, how much fats you need, how much carbs you need, is the holy grail. I always ask this to people, especially in today's world, like for some reason, everybody's carbophobic. Like people don't want to eat carbs, right? 1 gram of carb is only 4 calories. 1 gram of protein is also 4 calories. You know how much 1 gram of fat is? 9 calories. More than double.
Yeah.
It's calories in, calories out. It's energy management. 1 gram of alcohol is 7 calories. Just knowing this one fact completely changes how you look at food.
1 gram of alcohol is 7 calories.
That's right.
Wow.
And not only
how
this
many grams in a cup?
It's like, I had to ask how many in a bottle that I was drinking. Not only that, but also the body will burn the alcohol first. So not only you're consuming more calories, anything you do for the next 48 hours, it's not even burning fat. It's trying to at least first burn off the alcohol there is. So just knowing the basics and then getting deeper into food nutrition science, what should I eat? What should I not eat? That's when the fat started trimming off, because you're also training hard to maintain your muscle mass and grow your muscle mass. A lot of times when you're on a restrictive diet, you lose weight because you're also losing muscle mass.
So what was that transformation? It took 2 years to go from
2.5 years.
Two and a half
I started
years.
July 27th of 2022. I competed April 6th of 2024. Then I competed again May 18th. And then I competed again July 27th of this year. A full anniversary.
Wow, that's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so to entrepreneurs, people that say, hey, man, I'm running a business. I'm married. I have kids. How do you balance out the working out at that level while still running your business?
Well, that's the funny thing, right? Whenever I tell this story to anybody, people assume 2 things. Number 1, I must be a super duper hard worker. And number 2, I must have been training for like 10 hours a day. No. My entire journey until I got into prep for the competition earlier this year, I was only working out 4 to 5 days a week. That's it.
How long were you in the gym per?
An hour. When you know what to do, you do it efficiently. If you know how to close on a call, you don't need 2,000 leads to make 1 sale. Right? It's the same thing. When you know what to do, you know how to eat, when you know how to train, less is more. And let's face it, I was at 41% body fat. It was hard to get up the stairs. It would be absurd for me to try to lift 100-pound dumbbells and curl it. Right? I'll get injured. So as your body fat is coming down, your training intensity is going up. So you have a lot of time. It's not like day one. Those are the people who don't succeed, because they don't go day one, they go all out, and then they get injured. The brightest candle burns the quickest. Having done many hard things in my life, I know slow and steady. Slow and steady.
Makes sense. So, and at this point, are you already doing your coaching business, your consulting? Yeah. Okay. So you left doing consulting for that large firm to start your own consulting business. Mm-hmm. And you ideally work with who? Business owners? Like, who do you connect with? Who reaches out to you? How do you connect to people?
Solopreneurs, techpreneurs. I'm just trying to help myself 10 years in the past. Back in the day, I knew I had something in me. But everybody has their genius zone. But when somebody starts a business, you have to be a genius with 1,000 hands, right? Because you have to do everything. So I knew back in the day I was good at something, but I didn't know these other things that I also needed to be good at. So today, through my coaching, I provide exactly that. So I get solopreneurs who have a great product idea, who have a great personality, but they are not good at certain other things, right? That involves building an info-based, knowledge-based business. That's my space online.
Info-based, knowledge-based business. Correct. Online.
Yep. So
can you give me an example?
Yeah. So I have a client who is a nurse, and she wanted to have her own business. So she had a lot of bad experience when she was trying to get pregnant. And she went to Columbia. She learned a lot. She has 3 children now. She said, well, I want to be a fertility coach. Now she's a fertility coach, helping women all across the world, right?
Wow. She
has a great, humongous YouTube channel. I have students who are piano teachers, teaching how to overcome pain and injury, to other professional pianists, because it's a sport. It's just like a sport. You get injured and your career stops. Then on the other hand, I've also coached tech guys, who want to start their own tech consulting businesses, dog trainers, it doesn't matter what it is. It's a knowledge that can be contained in a program online that someone can purchase and learn from.
Do you have a system, like a inventory questions that you ask them to identify their pain points or their problems, or are they typically telling you, hey, this is where I'm struggling with?
It's a give and take process, but it's also reading the person, Everybody already knows what they need to do in life. Nobody goes through life thinking, I wish my job didn't suck, but I wish I knew what to do. No, if your job sucks, you quit the job and get a new job. If your relationship sucks, you know what you need to do. If you're fat, you know what you need to do. We just don't do it. So what's more important to me is not just the description of the pain points, but also the personality behind it. Because you can never make the horse drink the water, right? It has to be that same personality time. So what I'm always looking for, people who have a little bit of a spark, who have some pain, because from suffering comes wisdom. That wisdom just cannot be gained through reading a book, right? When you've lived a life, you have suffered through something, that's when the people are like, I want to go, I want to change, I want to do something. So when they have that spark, my job is to not pour gasoline on it. And that's when we do beautiful things.
And how do you pour the gasoline on it? What would you say you do?
Giving them what they need. I like speed. With speed comes results. That is a cyclical process themselves. They want to do more. Accountability, 100%. Honesty. I'm 100% honest. When I tell you did a great job, I truly mean you did a great job. You never have to sit and worry, did Mark just lie to me to make me feel good? But when I tell you, we need to buck up. It's serious whether we need to buck up. Because in today's society, especially, we live in a world where honesty is just not there. You don't really know, if your friend truly he thinks that you're great or not, or if, or your relationships, everybody just saying things to people to please everybody just to get along with. And honesty is at a premium cost, If I can have a friend, if I can have a mentor who truly cares about me deeply and tells me, Mark, you're messing it up. What are you doing? Back in the day, I wish I had that person. When I was on my, let's just say, the obesity journey, I wish somebody cared about me enough to say, Mark, what are you doing? What's going on here? And maybe I would fight back because we're already in a different time space, right? Headspace. But at least I wanted somebody who held me there and said, no, come on, we can't be doing this thing. You need to take care of yourself. That level of care is very missing. And that's what I provide through my coaching. So it's a gift and it's a curse. It's a gift because I'll care about you a lot, but it's a curse because I want to hold you accountable. You told me you were going to do this thing, so let's do this thing.
Yeah. So would you say that that's what most people need is the accountability?
100%. Honesty from everybody in the relationships. Everybody in every relationship. Your friend, your spouse, your mentor, whoever it is, we need to be honest because that truly shows to that person that you care. Then it's not you criticizing me. You're not telling me, Mark, well, you're fat. It's not a criticism. You care about me. And then I can ask, George, can you help me?
Makes sense.
On
your site, one of the things I saw that you ask is hey, are you burned out?
Yeah.
Hey, do you feel like you just can't get the results that you used to get?
Yeah.
I saw that specific. Is that a trend? Is that something that you deal with coaching people?
100%. People burn out because of two things, mental burnout and physical burnout. Mental exhaustion and physical exhaustion. I call it treading water. When you're an entrepreneur and you've jumped into the water, because we know at some point we all have to make that leap. Well, the first thing is you're just trying to stay afloat. So you're just literally treading water. And in the beginning, it's easy. For somebody who's been in the pool, treading water for a long time, you can just drown because you're tired.
Yeah.
Right? That's what causes the mental burnout. That's what causes the physical burnout. Inability to understand that there are strokes that I can do. I can go on my back. So it is the lack of tools that causes us to feel like I'm stuck. And that feeling of stuck just creates the burnout.
What kind of tools do you help people that are burned out with?
There are no standard tools. You have to get to know the person, right?
Okay.
Where are they stuck? Depends where they're stuck. So if you are, if you can't close, right? Well, you're stuck because you can't have good conversations. You can't have do I listen to your calls? Listen to 20 of your calls. Let's understand what's happening. Well, you're spending too much time talking about yourself. You know nothing about this other person. This other person is just a number in an Excel sheet. Well, now we have a ton of coaching to do on that, right? Okay, you're writing content but doesn't get any views. Why? Well, you're writing about stuff nobody cares about. People care about emotions. You're not relating to them at an emotional level. You're just talking about tips and tactics and hacks. ChatGPT can do that, right? So depending on where they are stuck, it is the observation of again, it's problem solving as an engineer, right? I want to see where is it that you're struggling. Because people also have a different perception of where they're stuck and why they're stuck. We're constantly misreading ourselves, right? Right?
Yeah.
It takes somebody else to objectively look at you and say, no, I know you think this way, and I see where you're coming from, but really this is the problem. And that's the aha moment, because it gives us that hope. Hope is that one thing that we need to be able to continue to move forward. No, there are very few people in life who can just continue to trudge forward without hope. It's just impossible. So once they get that hope, they get a little bit of result. Now they start thinking, what can I do? And again, how hard can it be? Let's just try it.
That's powerful. How do most people find you? Is it referrals? Is it you actively looking?
Referrals, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, so I only take on a certain amount of clients a year. This year, I have started a bigger social media outreach through LinkedIn, through podcasting, because I'm looking to work not only at a one-on-one level, but also at a group coaching level. So those are the things.
So you started marketing yourself as a coach?
Yes.
And that was when you started your own consulting business?
Correct.
And were you targeting a specific industry of like, this is who I'm looking for, tech or individuals that are looking to get content online? Did you know you have a specialty and then you targeted that?
Yeah. So when I first started my coaching business, my first and only product was Authentic Sales Accelerator, ASA.
Okay.
Because I was great at sales at this point. But I didn't sell like others. When I was on the phones with everybody else and the sales coaches come and coaches you, it depends on the personality. I was the only colored person. When I pick up, when an Indian guy calls you and it's like, hi, man, how are you doing? You're thinking he's going to sell you some antivirus software, right? He's just like, hang up. Nobody wants to listen. So I have to find my way through. So I developed a certain personality and I developed an approach. And not that this is at all true for all salespeople, but there are some pockets of sales where there's a lot of unethical stuff happens, right? And I knew no matter who I end up being in my life, super successful or super loser, I knew that I didn't want to be unauthentic, and I knew I don't want to be lie. Honesty is important to me. So how do you sell that way? That was my program.
You knew you didn't want to be inauthentic, and you knew you didn't want to lie.
Correct.
And so your program was based on those two principles.
Correct.
And so how did you create the curriculum for your program?
It was about drilling deep and getting to know the person. It isn't about the tricks and the tips and the hacks to overcome a price objection at the end. There is no magical way to overcome a price objection. You and I both know that. People come to me and say, well, I have a price objection. How do you overcome it? I cannot give you 6 words that you would just mumble and the person is like hypnotized and takes their credit card. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. It's all about the conversation. You have to be, like when I tell my students, when I'm having a conversation with you, I want you to have the best conversation of your life. I want you to sit for an hour and know that this guy truly cares about me. And I show that care by being authentic. I'll be pissed off. I'll be upset. I'll be sad. I'll be drilling and digging, being who I am. Because I'm putting myself in the shoes of the client. You are not just somebody who's coming to me for a problem. I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to you for an hour and then I'll go back to my life. I need to be you. And people can feel that. And it's easier. It's getting easier day and day because, like I said, nobody cares about anybody. So when you find that one person who's truly there in that moment and listening to you and asking you questions that you've never been asked before, you start to feel something and the close starts happening on its own. Then there are obviously frameworks and there are things that we do to be able to help maneuver the person from a point A to point B to help them understand why it's good for them. That's just textbook stuff. But at the end of the day, it is the depth of the conversation and the attention that you can grab by truly showing care.
And that's what you would teach people.
Yes.
And you would teach that. How would you? I know you modeled it, but how would you teach it to them?
So we break up the conversation into multiple parts. What does the intro look like? Like, how do we capture someone's attention during the intro part? Then we do something, I call it PPF, past, present, future, right? What have you done in the past? What are you doing now? What are you doing in the future? But getting to the nitty gritty of stuff, like really detailed stuff. A lot of people are just jumping around. They're jumping around all over the place. It's not a cohesive conversation, right? I need to know the exact history, much like you're doing with the podcast. You're going through slivers of time in my life to paint a full picture so that when Mark walks out, you can probably tell a story about Mark, right? It's the same exact thing. Focusing on the very specific time frame. I've been trying this for 10 years. Okay, what have you been trying? Why has it worked? Why has it not worked? It should have worked. Because based on what you're saying, I'm telling you honestly, it should have worked. Like if I truly feel that way, then what happened? And all of a sudden, it's not a lead problem anymore. It becomes a whole something other thing. And it's the realization, it's like, oh my God, I never realized that. There you go. Okay, let's move to the next part. What happened here? So That's the sales process for me. Going through the thing, and then there's obviously a close, helping them understand the price and the value and all of that stuff.
When you started consulting, since you don't have an experience on everybody's business and what they do, software, sales of maybe specific concept of sales, but you're now consulting people that have completely different businesses that you've never operated in. How are you effective to somebody that does something completely different to what your experience is? Or did you find that the problem-solving process of sales and just genuinely being interested and assessment, that gave you the tools that you needed to help those people?
Yeah. So for most of it, the problem-solving aspect of it is what all you need. People have similar problems. There are a bunch of people in this room right now. We're all on different diets. But if everybody came to me and said, how do I lose weight? It doesn't matter what your diet is. I can tell you how to lose weight. And if you follow it, you will get it. Because there's a process. There's a problem-solving process. So when you apply that process into any business, most problems can be solved. Now, to your point, there might be some business that I know nothing about. Well, you just don't take them on as clients. That's honesty. And you refer them to somebody else who you believe is good. That builds good credibility, relationships, where referrals come from, right?
That's good. That's really good. Because some consultants, I'll take you on, I can help you, and that's not their specialty.
Because at the end of the day, it would make my life miserable. I don't like my life being miserable, right? I don't want to go to bed stressed out about something. Oh my God, I'm lying to this person. I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't want to live that life. I always say, for my students, their success is my success, but their failure is also my failure. And I don't like to fail. It's personal for me. So when someone and because I work with one-on-one students, we develop a relationship for years, right? How do you go about life lying to somebody for multiple years? What kind of life is that, right? I know everything about them. I know their family and their kids and the problems. When they are struggling, I am struggling. I need to get you out of there. That's my job. That's why you hired me, So it's that depth of a relationship that creates the trust with the person to really, for them to also say, Mark is saying this thing, and Mark is kind of crazy, but he does get shit done, so let me just do it, and then they do it.
How do you deal with the capacity issue? I got just a couple more questions for you, but when you're doing a coaching business or consulting business, there's only so many people you could see in a day.
Yeah.
So at one point you say, I can't take on more clients. So now you were talking about doing more group coaching.
Yeah.
But how have you balanced that out in terms of capacity?
Yeah. So, obviously you're trading time, right? When you're doing one-on-one coaching. So there's a scalability problem, right? But I never worried about the scalability problem because for me, whenever I've poured myself over something, money has come. I never worry about money. It's just based on my experience and stories I told you. Tomorrow I could decide to be something else and I would become a millionaire overnight in that thing, right? So I never worried about what most business owners worry about, the scalability factor of it, because I just enjoyed it that much. Now, it did leave me drained. And even a guy who loves to be drained, sometimes it left me really drained, right? That coupled with the idea that I also wanted to make a bigger impact, right? Now I wanted to be able to do it in a group setting, put like-minded, like skill set, like businesses together. And then that's it, right? If you only have a treadmill at home and 3 other people in the room have treadmill at home, I can put you 3 together and talk to you about how to do a treadmill workout. I don't have to meet you once, right? So now I'm moving into a next shift where I'm going to do one-on-ones, but I'm also going to do group coaching. And it also brings the price considerably low, Back in the day when there was nobody to help me, I didn't have thousands of dollars to get a one-on-one coach. So these are things like you realize going through life. And like I said, I'm literally trying to help myself 10 years in the past because I was at such a rock bottom place in my life. If I can create programs and content to help myself 10 years in the past, I know everybody else who's listening it will get something out of it because nobody's going below where I was. I was literally on the streets, So that's that.
When you said something that I want to come back to. When I started the program, I didn't think about scaling to that level. I just wanted to help people.
Yeah.
So you were just like, man, I have something that can help people. I want to be effective. I want to help people get out of their problems. So I'm just going to start this coaching business. And then down the road, now that you're facing the issue that you're facing, now you're looking for solutions there.
Yeah, 100%. Just like remember when I started the sales job, I said the goal wasn't to say, I suck right now, I want to become 1%. The goal was, how do I get to the next level? So when I started my sales program, the question was, I know these things. I have helped co-workers with these things. Can I help a business owner with this thing? Right? And then you go to the next level, and you go to the next level, and you go to the next level. And you are learning through them, right? Because I think a certain way. I can work 20 hours a day. My clients can't work 20 hours a day. So sometimes I cannot just use the brute force method. So you evolve every single day as you're working with people. So that was the goal. Scalability, like when you're starting a business and day one, you don't have anything and you're worrying about how am I going to scale past $1 million? What are we talking about? Bro, you don't have a client. Do you know what I mean? How about you figure out getting a client first? And I meet people like this all the time. They have future problems. It's kind of like if I'm at a 40% body fat and you're like, you'd look really good with abs. I'm like, yeah, but what if my wife leaves me because I'm too hot now? And some other girls wants to be with me. What are you talking about? You're too fat. Lose some weight. You're creating problems that don't exist.
I got you. What drives you right now? What's your motivator?
For me in life, I want to see how far I can go. Every time I achieve something, I question myself, what am I leaving on the table? So, for example, this bodybuilding thing is something just I'm doing on the side, right? There are professional bodybuilders who do this all day, every day. My question is, can I beat them by doing it as a hobby? If I become a national champion, if I don't become a national champion, well, you just keep going at it until you get it. When I become a national champion, I'll move to the next thing, and that could be powerlifting. So it's just who I am, and that's what I want to do. I want to see how far I can go. And I've been incredibly lucky to have people in my life who have supported that and pushed me. So, recently I started working with, there were some directors who got interested in my story. We might have a documentary coming, something in the making. It's the story about, a guy from nothing who just wants to push the limits and see how far I can go. I think every man at some point thinks, what else could I have done? And I just don't want to be the guy who ever thinks what else could I have done. I want to have tried the things I want to try, and I could decisively tell my grandchildren, well, I sucked at those things, but I did amazing in these.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's great. Last question. For people that are somewhere and they're like, man, I feel stuck, because you work with a lot of people like that. What advice would you give to those people? I'm stuck at a job. I don't like this job. I don't feel like this is what I'm supposed to do the rest of my life, but this is what's paying my bills. Yep. This is where I make my money. How do I get out of this situation?
Be honest with yourself. What is more painful? Knowing for the rest of your life that you sacrificed the life you could have for this paycheck that you have, or being at that job? It starts with honesty. Let's get to the details. Don't whine. Let's get to the details. What is more painful? If you're going to look at me straight in my eyes and say, Mark, what is more painful to me is knowing that I could have had a life and I didn't because of these golden handcuffs, then I'm going to say, okay, let's work on it. Now we have a place to start. And because you have committed to me and you have told me the truth, because I'm telling you the truth. If you're telling me the truth that you want to get out of this, I'm going to do my darndest to get you out of this. Right? But it comes with that honesty. A lot of times we are not honest with each other and we're just talking surface level and we're talking about emotions. And if you say, a dream of a different job would be wonderful, but I got 7 kids, and I got to support my family and I just don't have what it takes to go anymore. If you truly, truly, truly believe that, then maybe it's time to just focus on that job and not worry about these other things. You can't have 2 feet in 2 different boats. Both boats will move away. You will fall in the water. You got to decide which boat you're on. Once you have decided which boat you're on, then we can work out. Then we can get a new job. Then we can get a new relationship. But without that, it's not going to happen.
Powerful. Thank you so much, brother. Great having you on.
Yes.
Guys, when we interview people on the show, you can tell the genuineness of an answer of how quick that person responds based on their true belief system. And you truly have believed what you say. And I could tell that you've taken the time to get to know yourself and test yourself in terms of your beliefs. And that's always a great thing to see people that are confident in their truth, because they've worked hard to have that confidence. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, we'll put your contact there below. At this point, are you still looking for people to mentor and coach, or is it more the group?
Absolutely.
And at this point, is it specific to a unique industry, or is it just broad now?
I would say if you're interested, apply, and then we'll have a conversation. We'll see what's best.
Sounds good. Well, guys, hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.